Alright, Dreams of Being a Firefighter by Sherwin Cruz. Alright, just to kind of give you an introduction. Hello, Kyle. My name is Sherwin Cruz. I turned 19 this May. Fun fact about me is that I'm an athlete. I love doing sports. I love staying active. I love working out. I'm a foodie just like yourself. I love everything about food. I'm always hungry, always looking for a snack, always munching on something. And yeah, so let's start this off. One of the most important organizations for this career is the National Fire Protection Association, also known for short as NFPA. This organization makes widely used standards and safety codes, including training for firefighters. And it's just not training for firefighters, they cover everything in fire protection, such as fire alarms, sprinklers, building code, regulations, all different systems that are included in fire protection are part of NFPA. A mandatory certification you need is NFPA 1001, Firefighter Level 1, and there's a Level 2 certification. This certification proves that you have the fundamental skills required for firefighting, such as rescue operations, safety procedures, equipment use, etc. And this certification gives you the fundamental skills to become a firefighter. And most departments, when you are applying to become a firefighter, will look for this. So it is mandatory, like I said, to have these certifications. Level 1, they look for Level 1. Some will look for Level 2's certifications. It's not really required. You could get away with a Level 1, but it is most certainly recommended that you have a Level 2 just to kind of up your chances when applying to be a firefighter. Alright, 2 new things I learned. So these are 2 new things I learned before coming into this course. I did not know these 2 things. Firefighters work extensive shifts, spending long hours at the fire station. I'll get more into how that works later on into the presentation. And number 2, that firefighters are trained for rope rescue. I personally did not know that, and I found that really cool. Alright, now we get into the different modules and how it relates to the career I chose, firefighting. So Module 4 is all about sprinklers. Fire sprinklers activate early and control the fire before firefighters come, whether that would be a dry or wet sprinkler. Some of the sprinklers I didn't mention here are deluge sprinklers too. No matter what type of sprinkler it is, it all has one job and one job only, and it's built for one main purpose. Sprinklers lower the chances of death and more damage, which is ultimately the goal in firefighting. That relates to firefighting as well. You want to lower the chances of major damage and havoc to buildings, and you want to lower the chances of fatalities. This also helps firefighters focus more on rescue rather than trying to suppress the fire at the same time. So since fire sprinklers are there, firefighters don't have to worry so much about the fire but more rescuing the people. Alright, Module 5 was firefighting, the career I chose. And firefighters have daily tasks such as daily apparatus inspection, gear inspection, inspect, test equipment, and have vehicle maintenance. We'll get more into that later on when we talk about the daily tasks and just how the day in the life goes as a firefighter. We'll get more into that. Firefighters have medical responses along with a rescue response. Rescue responses can be in confined spaces, water rescue, rope rescue, and fire response. And the list goes on and on. So, Module 6, Code Consulting. Passive fire protection is one I personally chose that I think that really relates to firefighting and how it can really help firefighters. So passive fire protection plays a huge role when it comes to firefighting, keeping the fire in one place so it doesn't spread. And if you keep the fire in one place and it doesn't spread, it just makes it easier for firefighters to extinguish and deal with the situation. Code compliance makes firefighting safer and more efficient. Firefighters can navigate buildings faster and rescue people more safely. Obviously, code consulting want to make sure exits that firefighters can read the exits and can navigate through the building quicker in order to evacuate people more safely and more efficient. Alright, Module 7 is fire alarms. So fire alarms notifies occupants of fire, which can make firefighting and saving people easier. It also notifies firefighters early on so they can come to the scene quicker. And fire alarm panels can tell firefighters where the fire started, which makes them more prepared. So if it tells them, for example, if it's on floor 2, they don't have to search around the entire building. Floor 2 building D, let's say Seneca for example, they won't have to search the whole building for the fire. They'll know exactly where it is after looking at a fire panel. Module, it was either module 8 or 9, but I chose module 9, which is fire inspection. So fire inspection, fire inspectors, they inspect and test fire protection equipment and systems. This includes all new and existing buildings, even old buildings, they still check. And it is important for firefighting because everything works as a unit. So say for example your fire alarm doesn't work and your electrical systems, that there's a malfunction in it, how are the firefighters going to know? Maybe someone can call them, but they won't come to the scene as quicker. And as we know, fire can spread rapidly at each second. So you want to make sure that everything is working. Passive fire protection, you want to inspect that too. Just everything works together in order to protect lives. And when buildings are regularly inspected and up to code, it makes firefighter jobs easier, checking things like fire alarms, electrical systems, like how I mentioned, clear escape routes, etc. So, historical fire, the Great Fire of London, is the one I did on my fire history presentation. Just read it off here. The fire started in a bakery and was not taken seriously at first. It had already spread by the time it was moving. So what is the lesson we can learn from that as firefighters? Firefighter emphasizes quick detection systems and fast response time. Like I said, even a short delay in time can turn a small fire into a large one. The second one. At the time, firefighter relied on tools like buckets, manual pumps where water access was limited. What was the lesson that we can learn as firefighters? Today's firefighters use hydrant systems, pumps, and more reliable water supplies. And from time, we just innovated those tools and we just came up with more efficient ways on how to put out a fire. Module 10, Fire Behavior. So, fire development stages are important for firefighters to know and recognize. Obviously, the 4 stages you have is incipient, growth, fully developed. The last stage is decay. This helps firefighters gauge how aggressive they should be towards a fire, what procedures they should take towards each of those stages, because you're not gonna approach a incipient like how you would approach a fully developed or decay. It would be different for each stage. And fire suppression methods are used by firefighters so they know how to handle diverse types of fires. Examples would be if you want to remove heat, you use water. You want to remove fuel, you turn off gas. Fire break in wildland. You want to remove oxygen, you want to put the lid on the pan. Fire blanket, CO2. And if you want to inhibit a chemical chain reaction, use cleaning agents, dry chemicals, and yeah. So module 11, ethics, professionalism, and statistics. So my definition of ethics and what I found to put it in the most simplest way is that ethics are a set of moral principles and rules that guide behavior, helping individuals and groups distinguish between right and wrong, and good and bad. So for firefighters, I was gonna say we as firefighters, I'm not a firefighter yet, but I'll just read it off here. Firefighters often face situations where quick choices are crucial for survival, making the ethical right decision under pressure. You must save lives without putting your team in danger. This is very important, when you get put in a situation, you have to think quickly and you have to be critical. And at the same time, you don't want to put your friends, your crew in danger. But at the same time, you want to save lives more efficiently. So you really kind of have to think in an ethical way and not try to be like the hero, if that makes sense. Not try to do too much, not trying to do what's flashy, just do what is the most efficient and ethical way in that situation. And training is what prepares you to be out in the field. This is very important too. This is actually an ongoing problem with firefighters nowadays, is firefighter fitness is starting to become lower and lower, and we need to be, as firefighters, fit. And ethical readiness should be engraved in every firefighter's training sessions. And when you do those fire training sessions, you want to give it your 100%. You want to work hard. You want to do things that will apply when you're doing it out in the field. And when you're doing it, after you're done, you want to reflect on, why you're doing it. Why am I doing this exercise? Why am I doing shoulder presses? For example, I'm doing a shoulder press so I can lift ladders. I'm doing farmer carry so I can lift bags and tools by my side. You want to think about these things and really why you're doing it from an ethical standpoint. So module 12, EDI, sustainability. This is such an important topic, especially for firefighters. You work as a team, dealing with whatever problem there is, and you must have that chemistry and connection with each other to succeed more as a team, and so that you can keep your community safe, including everyone in the crew, not discriminating anyone, and treating people how you want to be treated is part of being a firefighter. This is extremely important. You're working as a team every single day, and you guys need to be like family. So out of the 17 UN sustainability goals, I chose is quality education. And why I'm so passionate about this and why I chose this one is because I really do believe that every kid deserves quality education, whether they are still in preschool all the way up to post-secondary, college, university. And I really do think that this is an ongoing problem in our world. Quality education, as you can see in the picture I put on top, is poverty. So I really do think that education, if we educate our next generation, if we educate these kids, that they have a motivation to change the world, which is more sustainable. They have a motivation to make new friends, meet new people, and to really just have that overall sense of happiness. And I know sometimes school doesn't give you happiness, but it's a good stress. It's something we should be grateful for when we kind of take into consideration how blessed we are, especially to go to a school like Seneca, amazing school. And yeah. So, reasons as to why I want to be a firefighter. I listed 3 reasons, just like how it labeled on the rubric, to list 3. So first reason is, it is an exciting and active career. Not every day is the same, and you are constantly learning, training, responding to different situations, and not just stuck at a regular desk job. And no disrespect to people who do those desk jobs. You do what you want to do, and you don't discriminate and you don't judge people. So for me, I want to work with my hands. I don't want to just do the same thing every single day. It'll become boring for me mentally. It'll become stressful in a way that I want to do something different. I want to be out there. Second reason, firefighters are always in demand and will not be taken by AI in the future. This is something you have to really think about with your career. Will it be taken by AI? I don't think AI can ever take firefighters or trades or just any labor jobs in general, and it makes it a very reliable long-term career. And it is the most badass career I could think of. I can't think of another career that I want to pursue and that I personally think that is more cool. You have a strong sense of purpose, and the work you do every day is meaningful. Saving lives, you have that sense of purpose. I do this for my community. I do this for my family. I do this, for me personally. I do this for God. I do it because I want to have that sense of purpose where people respect me, people look up to me, and I kind of want to be that role model too in my community. It's like you're a modern day knight, you're protecting your community. So like I said earlier, I would be going over the typical duties of a firefighter. So a typical day of a firefighter consists of 24-hour to 48-hour shifts involving daily equipment checks, station duties, physical training, and community risk inspections, all while responding to emergency calls. It is not the same every day and can be unpredictable, like how I mentioned in the last slide. It's like you're living at a home basically and you're sleeping at the station. So that is what a typical day and the duties of a firefighter is. And yes, there will be tasks you do every day, obviously daily inspections. But the calls and the emergency calls, it won't be the same every day. It can vary, and it is very unpredictable on what you're going to do the next day. So the employer that I want to work for is, is a lot of students' choice at Seneca. What I heard from a job fair, a lot of people who are at this booth is Toronto Fire Services. So for reasons as to why, and to kind of four facts. Largest fire service in Canada, Toronto is the most populated city in Canada, the most popular, so it makes sense why it's the largest with all these residential buildings and how crowded it is. It looks like New York City. You're going to need fire protection in every single one of those buildings, so it is very important, especially in this growing city known as Toronto. Response to many types of emergencies, not just fire emergencies, medical emergencies, and whatever type of emergency there is. In general, firefighters are always at the scene. Number 3, operates 24/7, has multiple locations across the city. So say you get rejected by one part of the city, you can go to another part. There's hundreds of fire stations locally, so you have a lot of options. And focuses on teamwork and professionalism. Obviously, as a firefighter, you need to keep a good image, you need to stay fit, you need to focus on getting to know your team better, and just to kind of keep that professional stature of yourself. So ranking careers in order. Obviously, number 1, firefighter, like I was talking about this entire presentation. Number 2, fire inspector. Fire inspector would be cool. One reason is obviously the money. The money is good for fire inspectors, at least from what I've heard from students and professors around the school. So that is one reason why. And you're also interacting with people, maybe not as much as firefighters, but you're going to different buildings, you're inspecting, you're talking to different people, just things like that. Sprinklers, the design of sprinklers is cool, so that's why I ranked it 3rd. And the installation is kind of like a trade, very complicated, a lot of things to learn from sprinklers, and personally why I put it 3rd. Fire alarms, they're kind of more on the backstage of fire protection, not really interacting with too much people, but it is interesting. I placed it 4th. And code consultant and insurance risk management, I placed 5 and 6, both for the same reason, and that is it's more of like a desk job. And like I said earlier, I don't really want a desk job. I want something that is more hands-on, like firefighting. Yeah, those are my APA references. Yeah, thank you for listening.